So good morning, everyone. James Clark, the portfolio manager for the Solar for All program here at the DCSEU. I'm also joined by Josh Wink, our program manager for the CREF program with the Solar for All team at DCSEU. Kaylin Roach, of course, our marketing and communications manager, and our representatives from the DOEE. I'll start with Dr. Lance Lonk. Turning it over to you to introduce the DOE team.
Good morning, folks. Lance Lonk with DOEE, and I have my colleagues here. Thomas, you want to go next?
Yes, Thomas Bartholomew with DC Solar for All. And then maybe Jen, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, all. Thanks for taking the time. Jennifer Johnston, an analyst with DOEE. Thanks.
And Hussein, you want to go after that?
Yeah, hi, good morning. Hussein Karim, Assistant General Counsel with DOEE.
And I think Hampton is the only other.
Yep. Hampton Macbeth, Assistant General Counsel at DOEE.
Alrighty, and I'm gonna, before you start, Lance, we're gonna do some rundowns of everybody in the chat, just to do some quick introductions. I'm gonna call you one by one. If you feel free to come off mute and just introduce yourself fairly quickly. So, Alex.
Hey, Alex Gregory here, Advanced Solar, Commercial Director. And, appreciate everybody's time. Thanks.
Welcome, Alex. Bethia.
Hi, I'm Bethia Richards with Prime Partners Engineering. I'm the solar program manager here. Nice to meet y'all.
Pleasure. Brandon.
Hi. Brandon Cody, Peer Consultants. I'm the solar program manager here as well.
All right, pleasure. Carl.
Carl Weideman, Project Director for Revolution Solar.
All right, Dave.
Dave Wright with Groundswell, VP of Energy Programs.
Perfect. Erica.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Erica Lloyd. I'm with Eco Spaces. We're a green roofing business here in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Erica. Gigi.
Hi, Gigi Richardson with New Columbia Solar, project manager.
All righty, thank you, Gigi. Jeff.
Commercial project manager, a Solar Solution.
Perfect, perfect. Jesse.
Hey everyone, Jesse Walensky with Advanced Solar. I am the Director of Sales here.
Thank you, thank you. Jessica.
Hi, Jessica Pitts with Flywheel Development.
Thank you, thank you. Jody.
Hi, this is actually Kevin. I'm on Jody's computer. I'm with Aurora Energy.
All right, hi Kevin on Jody's computer. John.
This is John Gardner from LME Solar.
Thank you. Jordan.
Jordan Gamar with Prime Partner Engineering, Proposal Coordinator.
All right, Joseph.
Hi, Joseph Vanderful with Lightpost Energy.
Thank you. Lucy.
Lucy Bullock-Seeger from Lightstar Renewables, VP of Strategy.
Great. Thank you. Matt.
Matt Gardner with OME Solar.
Thank you. Thank you. Ola.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Ola Kolawale, just an interested private party.
Righty. Timothy.
Hi, all. This is Tim Bishop with Build Better Group.
All righty. And I'm going to pop back up because I saw Chase pop in.
Hi, everybody. This is Chase with Eco Spaces.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. And Lance, I'll pitch back to you for you and Thomas to jump in further.
Well, thank you, Kaylin, and good morning, folks, and welcome. I am Lance Lonk, as the name of the screen suggests, I oversee the DCSEU contract. I spearhead DOE's efforts in overseeing this contract. And it's certainly a pleasure to be here with you all this morning. I know some of you have participated in these pre-proposal conferences before. As you may know, it's our 6th iteration of doing these pre-proposals conference. And I want to say thank you to those of you who've participated before, not just in the conference, but in the program, and extend a warm welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. I also want to say thank you to some of our partners before I get rolling, or we get rolling with today's discussions. And some of our key partners that may or may not be on the line today are the Department of Buildings, that are very integral to the entire permitting and inspection of these systems. And of course, PEPCO, for the tremendous work that they do in trying to get these projects interconnected. But getting into why we're here today, most of you are aware that DOEE Solar for All program has been serving at the forefront of the district efforts to really accelerate the deployment of solar in DC. And this particular program, especially the CREF side of this program, can really tap themselves on their shoulder to take a lot of credit for the amount of solar that we've deployed across DC over the last 5 years. It is something that we're very, very proud of. And for as long as funding permits, we hope that you will continue to work with us to try to expand solar across DC, and of course, provide, the benefits of solar to our income eligible population. So on behalf of the director of DOE, Richard Jackson, and of course, the mayor, I do want to extend our appreciation and hope that folks joining us today will eventually send forward their proposals and participate in the success of this program so that we can continue to expand. So thank you for having me. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Thomas, to share a few words.
Thanks, Lance. Yeah, as Lance said, Solar for All has been successful because of the partnership that we've had with folks like you who have applied to these requests for proposals in the past and have built over 32 megawatts of solar in the district. So want to thank you for that, and we want to continue to move forward. There's some proposed changes in the program structure and the RFP structure this year, and if you guys have any concerns about any changes or any concerns about anything really, this is an opportunity to discuss them and for us to hear from you and for you to hear from us and to keep a dialogue going. So please let us know what your thoughts are. Thanks.
Definitely want to say thank you to our partners from the DOE, without whom we would never have been able to be as successful with the SFA program over the past 6 years as we have been. I will get into a little bit of the history of those successes on subsequent slides. I did want to also acknowledge Nikai from the DOB, who did join, and you can see on the screen there.
Everybody.
Thank you, Nikai. And do want to go over some of the webinar rules before moving forward. So the DCSUs will run through the webinar in its entirety. So after we finish with our presentation, the DCSEU and DOE will address any questions that are posted in the chat. Please let us know in the chat section if you're having technical difficulties or difficulty hearing the presentation. Please put all questions in the chat bar and we will address as many as possible. DCSEU will be bound only to the written answers to questions provided under the RFP formal process. Additional questions will be addressed and responses posted on our website at www.dcseu.com. Thank you, Kaylin, for adding that to the chat as well. And any additional questions can be sent to proposals@dcseu.com. I believe, and we will get into this a little later, you have until February the 2nd for those questions to come in. So that would be next Friday. The webinar will be posted on our website for anyone wanting to review the information that's discussed here today. Next slide, please. So a little bit of the agenda here. We're going to start off with the intro. I'll go over the history and goals of the program, then get into the FY2024 Solar for All CREF program and RFP. Josh will go over some of the scoring criteria, program milestones, CBEs, and the general contract changes. Turning it back over to me for the insurance process for submitting a response and the timeline. And just to get started here, a quote from Mariel Bowser back in July of 2016 announcing the RPS bill and Solar for All. This groundbreaking new law will enable us to extend benefits of solar power to many diverse populations, our seniors, our local small businesses, and our nonprofits, and our residents and families living on a fixed income. So just as a reminder for why this is so important. Next slide, please. The DC Sustainable Energy Utility, DCSEU, and the Department of Energy and Environment, DOE, are working with local solar developers to design and install solar photovoltaic systems at no cost to income qualified district homeowners. These systems have the potential to offset electricity costs by as much as $500 per year, saving residents money for years to come. And the CREF program also will ensure that the income qualified residents are able to see some of the savings even when they are not in the single family structures that allow for solar panels. And next slide, please. So just a little bit of the Solar for All history here. In year one, back in 2019, FY 2019, approximately 430 kWdc of solar was installed on 86 single-family homes. We also installed 84 community solar programs. Those are CREF projects totaling 7.2 megawatts DC. We target 100 single-family homes each year, and every year since then, you'll see we've met or exceeded that with 120 single-family homes. In 2020, 50 CREF projects totaling 6.4 megawatts DC. Year 3, we hit 125 homes, 32 CREF totaling 6.6 megawatts DC, and in year 4, 2022, there were 112 homes with 41 CREFs totaling 9.2 megawatts. Just this past year, we reached our highest single-family home count ever at 176 projects. There were 28 CREFs completed with 4.8 megawatts currently deployed, and that is a rolling total, but to date, over 9,000 district households have been served over the 5 years of this program. Next slide, please. So here you'll see a map showing where some of our deployments have been over the years, and they are color-coded by year. In 2019, you can see in black where some of these projects have been, 2020 through 2023. In green, you can see again, we are heavily loaded in wards 7 and 8, especially with these single-family projects, but we do have a number of projects throughout the city. And we have made strides over the years, as I went over on the last slide, in terms of the total numbers. Next slide, please. So just to go over the scale of Solar for All, these numbers are from December 31st of 2021. The SFA program had created 166 CREFs, which was 75% of all CREFs in DC. As of that same date, we had created 20.2 megawatts of CREF capacity, which was exactly 76% of installed CREF capacity in DC. And you can see by year a graphic showing, those totals again for the RPS Those are certified through PSC. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it over to Josh to get us started with some of the Solar for All goals.
Yeah, thanks, James. And thanks, James, for covering a lot of the history of the program. I'm going to talk about FY24, so moving forward into the future here. These are, the primary goals of the Solar for All program: support the rapid development of deployment of solar across the district, bring the benefits of solar to income-qualified households in the district, catalyze sustained solar market growth to meet RPS and SFA targets, create green jobs in DC, and invest in local businesses and CBEs. So let's go to the next slide here, where I'm going to talk about the requirements for the FY24 RFP. So this year, there's approximately $3.2 million in incentives available for FY24 CREF projects, which will be required to be finalized by September 13th of this year, which includes TPF, DOB final inspection, and PEPCO ATO. System will be energized no more than 2 weeks after ATO and turned on. 100% of the measured electrical output for at least 15 years must be designated to DOEE for the benefit of income qualified households. And you must ensure a minimum performance guarantee of 90% of expected annual weather adjusted output from solar installations, with a minimum production ratio of 1,200 kilowatt hours per kilowatt in the first year. Underperforming projects are subject to an annual financial penalty as outlined in the subcontract. And if projects do not complete all milestones by September 13th, there's a chance that you will have to repay all incentive payments within 30 calendar days. And yeah, this last bit, just subcontractors must operate and maintain the system, track and report the actual electrical output for at least 15 years. We can go on to the next slide, where I'll talk about the scoring of proposals here. So this is our rubric on how we score proposals as they come in. There's 5 main categories here: capacity and costs, project readiness, qualifications and team experience, innovation, and CBE requirements. So first category here, capacity and costs, is 40 of 112 points. Sites identified, how far along in development they are. We need documentation of site control just to prove that you are, have an agreement with the property owner there. The total capacity proposed and the incentive requested, which may not exceed $1.25 per watt. And the lower the incentive is, the more favorably your score will be. Part 2 here is project readiness. You must show that each CREF will produce at least 1,200 kilowatt hours per kilowatt per year, especially in that first year. We need a pro forma budget, either by project or for the entire portfolio as a whole. And we need a proposed completion schedule with estimated dates for key milestones achieved. And CREFs in a more advanced state of development will be scored more favorably. I think this is a really good time to call out that projects can be at any stage of development up until ATO at the point where contracts are signed. So if you have a project that is basically complete, but you don't have ATO, as long as it hasn't reached ATO by the time we sign contracts, we can accept that into the program. Group C here is qualifications and team experience. So how much capacity your team has deployed, prior experience and past performance on contracts similar to the DCSEU contract. We need 3 references there. And then finally, qualifications and experience. So who's on your team, experience working with partners, letters of commitment from financing partners, stuff like that. Group 4 here is innovation. So aspects that enhance the CREF's benefit beyond what is normally expected. We have a lot of examples of this outlined in the RFP. Some that come to mind are, installations that mitigate stormwater runoff, that have better sediment control than others, panels that tilt with the angle of the sun. And then finally, CBE requirements. These are outlined pretty extensively on the DSLBD website, but we can award up to 12 points depending on what certifications your business has. So CBE, SBE, WBE, things like that all get different amounts of preference points. And we can go to the next slide. So each CREF has 4 milestones, 3 of which are tied to incentive payments. These milestones will be outlined on the next slide. And each milestone has specific documentation and project goal requirements, which is once again discussed on the next slide. And these milestones help us ensure development progress, make sure you're staying on track to be able to meet the goal of September 13th of this year. And this is, just a way for us to be continually checking in on the progress of the project. And we'll go to the next slide where I can, discuss these milestones more in depth. So milestone 1 is the only non-payment milestone here. It's due May 31st of this year. We need site control, so a fully executed site control agreement with the property owner, and also a CREF supplement, which is something that we provide and is detailed a little bit more later, that just kind of outlines that the property owner understands the terms of Solar for All. Additionally, we need stamped engineering documents that are stamped by DOB. We need installation permits, a financing plan, and a project schedule and installation plan. Once you wrap that up, we can move on to milestone 2, which is the largest payment milestone. 50% of payment comes out here. This is due June 28th of this year. We need evidence of purchase for solar equipment, including modules, inverters, and racking. This typically comes in the form of a fully paid invoice that you would send over to us. We need evidence of equipment condition. We need manufacturer warranties for modules, inverters, and optimizers. And finally, the biggest piece here is ATI from Pepco. Once you achieve that, we can move on to milestone 3, which is due July 31st of this year and comes with 30% payment. And all that's required there is DOB's TPF inspection report and verifying that it's been received by Pepco. And then once you get that, we can move into the final milestone, which comes with a 20% payment and is due September 13th. Thank you, Nikai. So we have DCSEU comes in and we do our own QA/QC inspection. We need as-built and revised permits if those were necessary, and we need evidence of final inspections in O&M manual, Pepco's ATO. We need login credentials so that we can access production data for inverters and revenue grade meters. And finally, we need recorded site control documents. And then once you get all that documentation in, we can finally pay out the full amount for the project. And then post milestone 4, to fully close out the project, we need PSC registration information, just so that we can verify that the system is turned on and producing electricity. And move to the next slide, please, where I'll talk a little bit about CBE requirements. So district contracts in excess of $250,000 require a 35% SPE subcontracting utilization plan and monitoring throughout the life of the contract. Accordingly, the DCSEU may require that 50% of the incentives awarded under this RFP are retained by CBEs. As mentioned before, up to 12 preference points are available to prime bidders who are CBEs and commit to retaining the incentives or a portion of the incentives throughout the process. All bidders must disclose in their proposal the percentage or amount of DCSEU incentives that the bidder will commit to being retained by a CBE. If the percentage or dollar amount varies by CREF or location, the prime bidder shall include a breakdown in the CBE spend plan using the template provided in Exhibit D of the RFP. Moving forward, just some general contracts info. Go to the next slide here. Thanks, Kaylin. So the FY23 CREF contract template has been provided for review and informational purposes. There are some fairly significant changes to this template expected for FY24, and that will be provided in February. Thomas mentioned that earlier. We're going to get into those changes a little bit later, and there will be plenty of time at the end to ask some questions and get a little Q&A going on that. It's important for bidders to understand that many of these terms and conditions are completely non-negotiable, especially insurance requirements, and we do have fairly extensive insurance requirements. So I think it's very important for bidders to look at these and make sure that they are something that you think that you can execute. Finally, bidders are very, very strongly encouraged to review the FY23 contract template and note any exceptions that you anticipate requesting using the form provided in the RFP. Failure to do so may prolong or prevent a successful contracting process. And as mentioned before, there's a CREF supplement, which is in addition to the site control agreement. It does not replace the site control agreement. It supplements it, so it basically is just making sure that the property owner has an understanding of the terms of the SFA program. It's provided in attachment B1 and subcontracted template. A fully executed copy is required for each CREF as a part of the milestone 1 requirements. And milestone 4, we need a version of this that is recorded by the DC Recorder of Deeds, along with the site control agreement, also recorded by the DC Recorder of Deeds. Move on to the next slide here, where I'll talk about system monitoring. So to ensure that CREFs are producing the required output and households are getting the committed generation, the DCSEU uses a tracking system to confirm that PV installations are meeting minimum performance expectations. We have a tracking system that consolidates information from different projects over program years And so subcontractors must be required to provide us with independent access to production data so that we can pull the data ourselves and verify it ourselves. There's a little bit more about this on the next slide. So this is new this year. We are requiring that not only do we get inverter login credentials, which has been required for every year of the program, but we are also requiring API keys this year, including any other information as required to collect data on the inverter from these API keys, which are some are listed there. I don't need to read through all of them, but and any additional documentation that will allow us to monitor the electrical output both manually and via automation at regular intervals. And that's why we're including the API key info, is just to make the production monitoring on our end go much smoother, and so that we don't have to keep reaching out and saying, hey, we didn't see production on this site, and just having a whole back and forth between us and developers that is not necessary. And finally, let's move on to the next slide. So Solar for All program is designed to have all CREF output go to DC government for at least 15 years, allowing you guys to focus on your core expertise of installing solar. Excuse me. DOE and their third-party subscription organization will manage the output from the projects, making sure it goes to those low to moderate income households that have signed up. And developers can work with property owners, DCSEU, and DOE on program enrollment outreach to tenants at host sites. And something that's very important to us is making sure that residents of these buildings, especially if you're installing on affordable housing buildings, get access to the program. Not only that the panels are installed on their roofs, but they're signed up as subscribers as well. And with that being said, I'm going to move on to, I'm going to pass it back to James for the next few slides.
Thank you, Josh. And one of the things that Thomas pointed out earlier is that this year, one of the main proposed changes is the ITC IRA adder provision. I'm going to get into some of the basics here, but in general, all projects that plan to apply for tax credit adders authorized by the Inflation Reduction Act IRA must be noted in your proposal. If a bidder is awarded a subcontract, they will need to disclose if they intend to apply for the IRA adders for any projects authorized under the subcontract. If a project authorized for the SFA program receives an IRA adder, the bidder subcontractor will be required to enter into a commitment with VEIC to transfer 50% of the tax credit adder proceeds for the projects to VEIC for development of SFA in Washington, D.C. The commitment with VEIC would provide that within 60 days of receipt of payment from the federal government for an IRA adder, the bidder subcontractor will write a check payable to VEIC for 50% of the monetary value of the IRA adder payment to be exclusively used by VEIC for the SFA program. So it would be retained and just for the SFA program's use. A subcontractor will be required to sign a commitment letter with VEIC with respect to any IRA tax adders for all of the subcontractors' CREF projects. So those would be for both projects for which the subcontractor intends to apply for those IRA adders, and any projects for which the subcontractor doesn't currently intend to apply, but may do so in the future. And all this language is in the RFP, but we are happy to talk about that in the Q&A. Next slide, please. So just to dovetail on some of what Josh was saying with regards to the insurance requirements, those are listed in Exhibit B of the RFP. No exceptions will be made to the insurance requirements. Final requirements will be confirmed prior to the issuance of the subcontract. Some required coverages can be expensive, as Josh noted. Respondents are expected to understand the prices of the corresponding insurance and include cost in their proposed price per watt. There's a summary on the next slide for informational purposes only, but please refer to Exhibit B of the RFP for full requirements. And here you can see those requirements are commercial general liability insurance, automobile liability insurance, workers' comp, employer's liability, crime insurance, cyber liability insurance, professional liability insurance, aka E&O, sexual, physical abuse and molestation insurance, and umbrella or excess liability insurance, all in those limits seen in the right column. But again, please refer to Exhibit B for confirmation on that. There are no changes since last year, but we still want to make sure that everyone does read through those. And your certificates of insurance will need to be provided prior to signing the subcontract. Next slide, please. Okay, so submitting a response. For all bidders, the DCSEU welcomes all qualified bidders to respond to this RFP. All responses must be submitted through the DCSEU's contractor web portal. That's portal.dcseu.com by the deadline. Bidders may request a copy of the DCSEU solicitation guide for the contractor web portal by emailing proposals@dcseu.com, and that's the same email that your Q&As would go to. So for new and returning bidders, bidders may use their existing account. If you've forgotten your username, please contact web portal help@dcseu.com. But for new bidders specifically, you need to know, in order to submit a proposal, you have to first request an account by completing the username account request form available at dcseu.com/about, as Kaylin posted in the chat. It does take at least 2 business days for us to process those requests. So please don't wait until the day that the proposals are due. Get those requests in ahead of time if you don't have an account currently. Responses that are not in the required format or incomplete, not submitted by the response deadline, etc. If you've uploaded and don't hit submit, those would be disqualified. You need to hit submit, and your financial solvency statements are also due February 21st by 5 p.m., as with the proposals. However, your financial solvency statements need to be emailed separately to the Director of Finance, Angela Johnson, at ajohnson@dcseu.com. And that has to be sent separate from your proposal. Please verify in your proposal that the financial solvency statement's been sent. Next slide, please. All right, so the RFP timeline here is pointed out in the RFP. Written questions are due next Friday, February 2nd. Our responses will be posted a week from then on February the 9th. Your proposals and financials are due February 21st at 5 p.m. Those are 2 separate things. We'll be doing determinations of awards by the end of February, and subcontracts would be issued on March 12th. Your certificates of insurance, as well as the signed subcontracts, are both due on March 26th. And again, please submit your questions at proposals@dcseu.com as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so I definitely want to say, thank you for attending. We're going to get into Q&A in just a second, but just to point out some of our team members, myself again, portfolio manager, Solar for All, Josh Wink, now our program manager for CREF, Antoine Grant, program manager for single family. We've got Casa and Ron, our solar program engineers, and Madison Johnson, our solar program assistant for single family. Slide. And I'll turn it back over to Kaylin here for the Q&A guidelines.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. I'm also putting, I've been lighting the chat up with some helpful links. The last link that I just put in there is the sign up. So the contractor update. So if you currently don't receive emails about our solicitations or just general about our programs and services as it relates to contractors, please do sign up. It is incredibly helpful. We do email that list quite often. And as I go into questions, just to submit a question, you can do it like I've been doing, throw it in the chat and we'll address it as it comes in, or you can raise your hand. It's a little hand button. I'm raising it up and down right now myself. And then I'll give you, I'll shout your name out and you can come off mute and ask your question. So I didn't see any things any questions in the chat while the presentation was going on. Just wanted to call. But if you have anything, just please post it. And just as a reminder, and as I'm waiting for folks to raise their hands or throw some in the chat, as a reminder, this session is being recorded, and we will provide the recording to all who registered and attended. So if you have somebody who's not here today but they registered, they will receive a copy of the recording and presentation. And the recording and presentation will also be posted directly to the solicitation. The solicitation can be found at this first link, the very first link that I put in the chat. We'll bring it back up. Alrighty, so I don't want to talk us through all the questions, but if you guys don't have any questions, I won't make us stay here too much longer. I'll give us a couple minutes. Alrighty, and again, while if any questions do come up, please do send them to proposals@dcseu.com. And what was the date again, James? I'm going to run back to that slide really quick.
February 2nd, so next week, Friday.
There you go.
And just a reminder for anyone who is also participating in the single family program, if you have not registered your account, please do so. Those bids are due on January 31st for our single family solicitation.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. And I'm going to hold this until 12:42-ish, maybe 43, because I'm But if you do ask a question today, that question will be answered if possible. But if not possible, it will be answered in the official responses. So any questions that are asked here today, they do go in the official responses as well. So just wanted to make a note of that for folks if they're sitting on some questions that they don't know if they want to ask. But we are at about 12:42, so I'm gonna pass back to James, Lance, and Thomas. But thank you to the DCSU team, DOE team, and to you all and all of our partners for being here today. But James and Lance and Thomas, I'll give you guys the last words.
Definitely want to say thank you to everyone for your attendance today, for listening in, for submitting questions in the future, proposals and the like. Definitely want to say thank you to our partners from the DOEE, without whom this program would not be possible. And again, we would not have been nearly as successful as we've been without their cooperation, support, and our partners from DOB, as well as PEPCO, who are and aren't in attendance. Turn it over to Lance and Thomas as well.
Yeah, James, just to echo those same sentiments, thank you folks for joining us today, and we look forward to receiving your proposals.